All right, and welcome back into the Pulse with Willie and Al. Here we are again for another night, back for episode 6 here. A little walk to the guillotine. Better bring your popcorn. How's it going, Al?
Ooh, it's going. It's going. We're another week of football ahead of us. Thursday night game tomorrow night.
Yep.
We are filming this on a Wednesday, so anything that happens from now until Friday, don't sue us.
Yeah, we're not responsible for it. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Pat McAfee, don't sue us. Yeah, it's excellent, right? Like, it's true. Yeah, it is a Wednesday and stuff. A little late for me, but early for you there. And yeah, we're going to be covering the Sunday games this week and stuff. So hopefully we're able to give some good predictions for what's going to happen and kind of see what happens going forward to kick off week 2, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's go ahead and dive in here. The first one we want to talk about is Baltimore at Cincinnati. Very interesting game with this. Cincinnati, they're getting 3.5 on this, and the over/under is 46.5. So, what do you think about this game?
I actually think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I just don't trust. I don't trust Cincinnati's offensive line to block for Burrow for more than 1.8 seconds. I think that he's going to. While Baltimore's defensive line is fine, I just think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I really do. I think that Burrow is a player in September. He needs a little time to get it going. And I think, last week was his first real action since, the AFC title game last year. So I think another week, I think he figures it out. But I think it's a low-scoring game.
Yeah, my opinion too. Like I think it's going to be a little more than I guess middle of the pack, right? I don't know if it's going to meet the over under. I'm pretty sure it comes in under that. But my thought on is Burrow got his bag, right? Newly minted $300 man there. Looks real good.
$300, man. I think you mean $275, my man.
Yeah. I think we're missing it and stuff. But yeah, he's rich now, right? Like highest paid quarterback in the league. Like the guy got his bag and stuff. It was disappointing to see him drop a dud this past week. And I'm hoping he's able to kind of remedy that a little bit. Like we mentioned before when we kind of talked about the recap and stuff, it was very reminiscent of Pittsburgh the first week last year where he threw the 4 picks. And you're right, he kind of gets off slow in September. But I think they just need a little bit of time. And me personally, like, I actually really like this loss. Like, there's a perceived dichotomy that losing is going to ruin your season, right? And like, I hate to bring it up, but like 18-1, I know that has significance for you. Like, woof, right?
It's one of the 2 games of my life that I can't watch highlights of.
Yeah,
so,
but this is the thing too. Like, and I mean, I know we've talked about it a lot. Me being a Colts fan, like the amount of 13, 14 win seasons I saw the Colts go through, where they get bounced in the first round of the playoffs and stuff. Like, you do gain a lot of value out of losing. You need to overcome adversity through the season, and like, but what better way than to start, right? And like it's proof too. Even last year with the way they started, they end up in the AFC Championship game, 1 play away from the Super Bowl. Like, it's not about how you start; it's how you finish. And I really think this is a team that when they do get in gelling with each other and stuff, it's going to be really, really good for them.
Absolutely. I'm going to say a thing, and I think even if Cincinnati loses this week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not writing them off completely. I mean, they started 0-2 last year, and look how far they got. Like, they just if they end September 1-3, then I'm a little worried. But I really think that I think they need this game. I think they should win this game.
Mm-hmm.
But if they lose this game, I'm not super duper worried about it yet.
Right.
So.
And just looking at it, I don't think so either. My big concern is, like, what does Baltimore take from that game against Cleveland, and what do they implement in this game against Cincinnati this time? Because Jim Schwartz, I mean, let's be honest, they got out coached Cincinnati did on Sunday. Like it was just it was brutal. So like whatever Jim Schwartz was able to tie up for that and scheme up against them, it clearly worked. And I wonder if that's going to be the same thing you're going to see out of Baltimore, is they're going to try to replicate getting pressure on Burrow, trying to get hit, to get the ball out of his hand quickly, all of that stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's kind of always been the game plan against Burrow. And any good quarterback, if you give him any amount of time, like he's just going to pick you apart.
Mm-hmm.
And history has shown if you get enough pressure on Burrow, like he's got to get rid of it quickly. That means he won't find Chase, he won't find Boyd, he won't find Higgins. Like, he's not going to find any of his favorite targets.
Right.
And I think until that offensive line really starts blocking well, I think this is just going to be more of the same for Burrow, and that sucks.
The same thing we talk about like every year too, like with Burrow, like not getting the protection and stuff. They bring in Orlando Brown, like that's a big deal at left tackle for them. Like this dude should not be getting hit anymore, right? Like
yeah,
he really shouldn't. Like he should have days back there. So I think you're right. Once they're able to find and shore up that protection, I think it's going to change a lot of things. It also makes me wonder about the weather last week too, like if that had a big impact on it. It doesn't play particularly well against Cleveland, but like in the rain, it's just not a fun one to have to go through either.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the weather definitely played a big factor in the game, but I also think there's a little part of it too where just Cleveland punched them in the mouth.
Yeah,
plain and simple, like they did.
Yeah,
like Myles Garrett was just having a field day getting back there, and he has a field day with everyone, but boy, you just kind of felt bad for Burrow after a while.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Baltimore for a second and stuff, because like one of the things that I noticed this past week was like Lamar just looked straight up pedestrian, right? Like he did not look good in week 1, and I as I'm going back and kind of reviewing the film and stuff, I kind of understand why. He loses Ronnie Stanley, that was pretty quick and stuff. Like that's the blindside left tackle that he's got, and he's expected to miss at least this week with that sprained knee. But then not only that, but then all of a sudden the center comes out too. You got Lindenbaum there, and that's just not. It's really tough when your offensive linemen are dropping like flies to make it seem like everything's okay. Andrews wasn't there either. He's nursing that quad injury. Like this just wasn't the Baltimore team that we were hyped up to see in the preseason, right?
Yeah, they got lucky last week because they played a Houston team, which is starting a rookie quarterback in C.J. Stroud, rookie head coach, and D'Amico Ryan. They got lucky, and what worries me, especially with linemen and leg injuries like that, like linemen are big dudes. Like, and if you're having a leg injury, like you're putting all that weight on that leg, like that's gonna be hard. That's hard to come back from.
Yeah,
I don't care who you are.
Those sprained knees scare me quite a bit. Like the ankles, yeah, that's not fun, especially in week 1, because that's something that can linger a little bit. But the knees really scare me, man. Like that's something that's like, oh man, like if you have any sort of structural damage in there, and a sprain like kind of weakens that, right? So it like makes you more susceptible to be able to go down with an injury like that. I think they did the best they could, right, with what they had. Zay Flowers, like I know it looks ridiculous for 1 week, right? Lamar throws 22 times. Zay Flowers gets a 46% target share, which makes it look incredible on paper and stuff. And he had a very good opening game debut for the Ravens, right? Like he played really well. But I'm curious to see if they're going to go back to him. Like, what's the deal with Dobbins being gone now? Like, are they able to pick up where they left off? Like, does Gus Edwards come in and kind of split that time with Justice Hill and they're good? Or, where are we in terms of that? What do you think about that?
I think with Dobbins being done for the season, no offense to Gus Edwards, serviceable running back. Like he'll do the job for you, but like Dobbins just really brought something special to that team. And I think without him, I think you're going to see Lamar throw a lot more.
Yeah,
I really do. And like history says, like he's an MVP winner. He is. Yeah. To win an MVP in the National Football League, you've got to put up some insane stats. In 2019, he did that for sure. But honestly, like he's still kind of a little bit rusty too. He didn't play. he didn't play the last like 6 weeks of the season last year. Like
Right.
he's still also coming back,
Mm-hmm.
and he's still got a little rust on him too. So, and I think he's going to get thrown into the fire quickly because when you can't run the ball, like defenses start really gearing up on that, and he's got the legs to to avoid those sacks, but that's going to get tiring after a while.
Yeah, and I think really the big piece and like what provides him that kind of comfort is having Andrews there. Even Isaiah Likely, a great tight end fill-in if you needed one, right? Like he's a stud too, but like he didn't even play particularly well last week. Like, it just I thought, yeah, the Ravens won, and if you look at the box score, you're like, oh man, they beat up Houston, but it really should have had the feeling like they could have won like 49-9, right? Like it had the feeling like they should have been able to blow them out a lot more than they did. So it was a little bit disappointing in that. Just thinking, on defense and stuff, what do you think is going to happen with that? Because I'm looking right now, like they're hampered on defense too. You got Marcus Williams, he's out for Sunday. Marlon Humphrey, they say he's got a shot to play Sunday, but dude, like, he's not gonna be full strength going in there. Like,
no.
What do you think is going to end up happening with them?
I think Humphreys is going to play. Marlon Humphrey is going to play on Sunday. I think he's going to. He's just not going to miss another game. Baltimore needs him badly on defense. And that being said, he's going to be 70% of what he usually is.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you're not 100% against guys like Chase, Higgins, and Boyd, boy, you are asking for a long day, friend.
Yeah, you'll be in for a long day with them. So I just think they need to be able to do like we were kind of talking about before, what Cleveland did and get pressure on Burrow. The biggest thing in Houston's offensive line, as crazy as it sounds, is even worse shape than I guess Baltimore or even what Cincinnati had. So they're gonna have to do better against Cincinnati in order to be able to get to Burrow, right? It's not going to be easy for them to get to the quarterback against this team. And I'm really thinking that me personally, I think the Ravens are able to hang in there a little bit. I think Lamar has to throw. I think they're going to be behind early. But I'm picking Cincinnati 35, Baltimore 28. What do you think?
I'm picking Cincinnati as well, but like I said earlier, I think it's going to be a much lower scoring game. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be Cincinnati beating Baltimore 20-17.
Okay, yeah.
I really think this is just going to be a field position game. I just don't see this being a high scoring game. I don't. Okay. And two, I think part of the reason I don't see it as a high scoring game is I just don't think Burrow's going to get the protection he's going to need to throw it to his guys. And I think he's just going to be under pressure all day.
Yeah, if that's not happening, you're not extending drives, you're not completing those third downs, right? It's really tough to continue drives and put points on the board if you're not protecting him. So
also, these teams have always played each other close. I mean, this is a rematch of the wild card game last year.
Yeah,
and maybe Baltimore gets up for it. That's not. Who knows? But
correct me if I'm wrong, but not only was this the wild card game, but didn't they play the week before that too?
Sure did.
Yeah. How wild to be able to have that kind of play out the way it did.
And then Hundley last year had that fumble, and the guy returned it 98 yards for a touchdown.
I do remember that. Yeah. That was crazy.
Yeah, Tirico with one of the better calls in his lifetime. Oh man,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen. Let's move on here. We're going to talk about Seattle and Detroit, which I think it should be. It has the makings of a great matchup, right? With Detroit coming off that win from Kansas City, Seattle getting absolutely thumped by the Rams, right? In this game, Detroit, they're giving them six points on it, and then the over/under on it's 48.5. So, what do you think about this? Where do you see this going?
I think this is going to be a weirdly high-scoring game. Just because last year, the Seahawks beat them 48-45 in a shootout. So I really think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think that Detroit, I say what you want about them defensively, they're all right, but they're not. They can be better. And I think Seattle has enough weapons. I think this is a game Geno Smith bounces back. I think that the pass rush for the Rams last week really got him rattled, especially Aaron Donald.
Mhm.
When you're yelling, "Oh God," when he's coming at you, like
Yeah.
you're rattled.
Oh, the memes that I've seen about that, they are so funny, man. I could watch that all day. It's so good. It really is.
Yeah,
No, I think you're right, man. I want to see Gino bounce back this week. Really, like my message for him, you need to be better, right? You need to do
yeah,
better, be better. Keep these guys under control too. Like Pete Carroll, you can't have Metcalf popping off like knocking guys around, getting unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. Like that's just there's no room for that, right? And it doesn't help. I know he's frustrated. I know all of that, but like dude, I really think that Seattle needs to come into this game, look to be very physical. And I think it's going to be an uphill battle for them because
yeah.
what they leaned on last year was those rookie tackles that they had, right? You know, Lucas, I think they grabbed him in the third or the fourth round. He's
Mhm.
injured now, you know, with soreness around his patella tendon. Like, you know, like he's questionable. Charles Cross, he's questionable as well. He's got that turf toe. Like, that's what they leaned on last year. That was their strength. That well, we got these two rookie tackles. They came in, they played very well, and like Gino's got all this protection. If he's not getting that, like it's really tough for them to be who they want to be, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Too, and I think I keep going back to what Seattle needs to do,
Mm-hmm.
and you're right. It starts with Geno Smith. It does. Because I've said this. I said this last week too. That I don't think. I think what happened with Geno last year was a flash in the pan,
Mm-hmm.
and to prove that it's not, this is a big game that like he really needs. Because starting 0-2 for Seattle, that's you already have your work cut out in that division.
Yeah.
You could like if you want to hang with San Francisco, you've got to start winning some games early and often. You do.
Right. Well,
And two, what I do like is that Seattle, the last two games that they've played Detroit, have put up a combined 99 points on them.
oh man,
So
and
these
that's
have so
yeah. It's got the means of a blowout, right? Like
yeah,
it definitely does. And this is the thing that's kind of disappointing to me. Like if you look at the stat sheet, like Kenneth Walker had a good game last week. Like I know I had him in fantasy and stuff. Like had a good yards per carry, everything like that. But I think they ran like 12 plays in the second half. That's it. Like
yeah,
dude, like that, you're not going to win games doing that. Like you need to be able to run the ball effectively, set up the play action, and then be able to run off of that. And when you have weapons like Lockett, Metcalf, and Jackson Smith and Jigba, like, dude, there's no excuse for not getting it done. Like
yeah.
there's
I
mismatches all over the field.
oh yeah, I think they're going to actually do an okay job running on Detroit this week.
Mm-hmm.
Running on the Rams last week, like respectfully, you're not running on Aaron Donald. You're
Yeah,
not. And when you know that you have somebody like Donald on one side, the defense knows you're going to run the other way 95% of the time.
right.
I think like Hutchinson's good, and I think they might run into a bit of the same problems. But overall, I think they're going to be able to move the ball a little easier this week than they did against the Rams.
Right.
And Detroit's a better team. They are. They showed a lot last week with how they played Mahomes.
Yeah.
They did. Like they stepped up defensively when they needed to. Um, so I don't know, man. I don't know. I think it's gonna be a weird game.
You know what's kind of interesting? Like, think about the trajectory of this Lions team, right? Like, going back to last year, like how they started the team, how they started the season. Like, they had a bunch of games where they were putting up points left and right and stuff, but not winning the games, right? Like, and now they start the season going into Arrowhead, winning 1-0. Like, you know, they're 1-0 leaving there. Now
Yeah.
they've got a chance to like really, you know, rip Seattle's heart out in this game. Like I definitely see Campbell doing that, like being aggressive, maybe going for like an early fourth down call and like keeping it. You know, I see them trying to be aggressive and like take their chances because I really think at least from, and I know this is kind of just his persona, but I feel like the way Dan Campbell's coaching this year is like we've got to do it this year. And like
Yeah.
I like that. I buy into that mindset. Like I think we're gonna see a lot more Jameer Gibbs this game. You know, they eased him in and stuff. What did he have? Like 7 carries, something like that, and he had more broken
Yeah.
tackles than anyone else in the league off of those touches. I think he had nine plays that he ran total, or 12, something like that. But the broken tackles, like leading off of that, like his PFF grade was off the charts compared to everyone else in the league. Like it's insane. So like if I just think we're going to see a lot more of him this game. Hopefully they're able to kind of get him out of the backfield a little bit, spread the field a little bit. If they run him, out of the slot, they can put Montgomery in the back, which, he's going to be able to still pound the rock 15, 20 times the game,
Yeah. I think too, for Detroit, this is their home opener. This is a big test for them.
Mm-hmm.
They're expected to win. And like, what do you do with those expectations?
Yeah.
Because like you can read about yourself all you want about how we're supposed to be this really great team, but like when push comes to shove with Detroit, are they going to do it? They surprised me last week, and I think they're going to take another big step this week. This is a game they should win, and if you're going to be a good team, these are games that you should be winning.
Yeah,
respectfully, like.
What was interesting was I saw a little clip. I think it might have been on Twitter where C.J. Gardner-Johnson was talking about like the fans of Detroit, and so when he was coming out for the Kansas City game, he was wearing like a blue ski mask with like the eyes and the mouth cut out. He looked really cool, and I guarantee like when you watch that game this weekend, be on the lookout. Like you're gonna see people in the stands with like these blue ski masks on. Like they're looking to be dangerous this year, man. Like I really think that. Like we saw, okay, so Green Bay looked pretty good this past weekend. Chicago looked terrible. Minnesota gets beat by Tampa Bay. Like it seems like they can't stop water from running, right? Or like, they can't stop Baker Mayfield, so they definitely can't stop water, right? Like, and and no shots at Baker, right? Like, dude, I love the way he plays the game. I really do. And I want to see him do well, but like he had no business beating Minnesota, right? Like Minnesota should have won that game. So I really think like Detroit, it could be their year to like really make a push. They don't have to deal with Aaron Rodgers being there anymore. They're done with that crap. Like Justin Fields, it seems like if we talked about yesterday, if Tua's the ultimate like fast processor in the game, like Justin Fields might be the polar opposite of that. Like it's kind of wild to see that, because like he's just very slow and robotic, kind of with like diagnosing passing plays. Hopefully he's able to fix that, but I really don't know, man. So like I think Detroit's in a perfect position to be able to like steal this division and like be dominant doing so.
Yeah, I think too what's going to help is they're going to know by Sunday the result of that Vikings-Eagles game on Thursday night. And if the Vikings somehow lose that game, which I think we all think they're gonna lose to the Eagles, for the Lions, if they can win this game, an early 2-game lead in that division, that's huge.
Yeah,
that is huge on a Vikings team that like most people I think thought we're gonna win that division this year.
Yeah, like I think they're gonna be competitive, or at least try to be, and they're good enough that they could, if they're the worst team in the division, they're gonna steal games off people. They definitely are. So like that's still not a team. Like talk about any team in the league. No one wants to play Minnesota. No one's like, oh yeah, I want to play that game. Like no one wants to go up against that offense. So you're right. I think it's a massive advantage going into that. Well, what do you have for a score for this game?
I have Lions 34, Seahawks 31.
Okay. Yeah, see,
like I said, I think it's going to be a bit of a higher scoring game.
Yeah, definitely. I don't have Seattle scoring as many points because I still don't think they're there, and I think Detroit like kind of lays it on a little bit and controls the game a little more, but I have Detroit 31, Seattle 17. So we can kind of see how that plays out and stuff, but that's a game I'm really looking forward to watching. I'm real excited for that. So.
Yeah, I'm just excited that the fans of Detroit have something to be excited about.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like the Tigers have been pretty bad for a while.
They weren't the worst team in baseball this year, though.
Yeah, that's because Oakland couldn't field a competitive team at all.
Yeah.
The Red Wings haven't been good in a hot minute. Like
the Pistons haven't been great, right?
What's that?
The Pistons haven't been great.
No, they got Cade a couple of years ago as the number 1 pick, but they're still just kind of like chugging along. Like Yeah, this is the most excited Detroit's been in a while, and like I'm happy for them for that. That's
Yeah.
they deserve it if anybody does. Man,
They definitely do. That's one of the things I like in the NFL now. Like you're starting to see teams like even like Jacksonville start to sneak up there, right? Like how can you not feel good for those fans? Like you
yeah,
really do. Like even if Dallas is good this year too, like the amount of pain Dallas fans have had to live with for the last 25 years, like it's brutal, man. Like to hear
yeah,
every year we've got Super Bowl aspirations and not get there. Like I don't know. Maybe this is the year for that. Who knows? They're
yeah.
not my pick, but it's maybe. So speaking of another
Yeah.
team, two teams that actually might have Super Bowl aspirations this year. The next game we'll talk about is Kansas City at Jacksonville, and this
Oh,
is
this is gonna be a fun game.
yeah, like I'm looking at it. So they're giving Kansas City 3 points. The over under on it's 51, which I personally think is kind of low for these two teams, but maybe they're considering Kelsey not being there. Maybe the line gets moved a little bit if Kelsey plays. I think he's gonna be there. Like he needs to be, right? Like
The way they were talking about on the telecast last Thursday night, it seemed like everybody was in the agreement that the 10 days off are going to be good for Kelsey. He's going to come back, and I think he actually plays.
yeah.
I don't know how effective he's going to be though, and that's the real question
He's a
because
tough
they
dude,
need him in
man.
that offense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's just a tough dude, man. I love watching him play because he's one of those guys like Brady and stuff that you just don't want to count out. Because the
no,
minute you start to do stuff like that, and I see the same kind of with Mahomes and Burrow, like I don't want to talk bad about these guys because I like them first of all, but secondly,
yeah,
like the minute you start to count them out, it's like they know that and they thrive off of it. And Kelsey is that dude too. Like he really is.
yeah.
I love watching him be able to play. But do you think if he's there and say he's even at 85%, like that's better than most most other tight ends
Yeah,
100% in
for
the league.
sure.
Do you think Kansas City's ready to take on that challenge of Jacksonville?
I do. I think that they got embarrassed at home
Mm-hmm.
on national television. Like they're the defending Super Bowl champs. And usually most years, the team that wins the Super Bowl the next year, they host that first game on Thursday night. They usually win that game. And they got kind of embarrassed at home. And I think Andy Reid's gonna light a fire under him this week. Because
Yeah.
I just don't see them getting embarrassed 2 weeks in a row like that. Not with Mahomes.
Right.
Mahomes is going to do some weird stuff that is going to be like he's going to have some backbreaking plays, and it's going to be close. I think Kansas City rights the ship this week because they're a team that if they go down 0-2 to start the season, I actually think there's some real panic.
Yeah, like I said, man, like I didn't have them making the playoffs this year just because like it's so tough to get back and be dominant for that long. I know people are talking dynasty and stuff, but like you've got to be really, really good, and they've just lost a lot of pieces, man. They were able to piecemeal it last year without Tyreek Hill, but I just don't think they have. I don't see that veteran leadership besides him and Kelsey. And you saw that a lot, right? Like Chris
Yeah,
Jones, like he's back now, which is a big plus for them, right? Like I imagine they play differently this week with him being back, right? If him and Kelsey are there, it's like a double bonus, right?
right.
And it obviously makes Mahomes feel better, but I just feel like without those guys, like you have a true like loss of leadership on this team, right? Like Mahomes just can't do it all
Yeah.
himself, right?
Yeah, I think too with Jones coming back, I think that actually changes a lot of things for Kansas City, especially defensively. Like Lawrence isn't going to get comfortable. Chris Jones is going to make sure of that.
Right.
And I think that he's going to disrupt a lot of what Lawrence wants to do. Lawrence does have his legs; like he can take off when he needs to, but it's not something he always wants to do. You can tell. Like
Yeah.
he'll just stand in the pocket for as long as possible, and I think Jones is going to really make a big difference, and that's why I think Kansas City's actually going to win this game.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
so my whole thing is like can Jacksonville play well for an entire game? We saw them last week
yeah,
play very well for a half, right? Like Calvin Ridley involved. I even loved, I don't know if you saw it, but the block that Etienne made to like,
Yeah, I did see that.
oh
Yep.
my God. Like, I love seeing plays like that. And I really think he's primed for a big year.
Yeah.
I really do. I think he's going to be super productive and stuff. And just didn't really find most of it in that game. I think you're going to see him go all out and have some really good games coming through here. And I think he needs to be an intricate part of that offense in order for them to have success in this game. Calvin Ridley too, right? Like Zay Jones, Christian Kirk was like who was Christian Kirk last year? Like a top 15 receiver in the league, and like he just disappeared last week. He just wasn't
Yeah.
involved at all. So I really want to be able to see them. I hope they go 4 wide receiver sets and just you know throw the ball as much as possible. I'd love to see that. Yeah.
I think too, like what I said about Detroit earlier about how if teams want to take them seriously, this is a game that nobody's thinking that Jacksonville's going to win, but this is a game that Jacksonville needs to win.
Right.
Like if you want to start being taken seriously, you got to start beating really good teams. You do. And this is a team that is really good. They're the defending champs. You got to get up for this game. You do. Like if you can't get up for playing the defending Super Bowl champs, like what are you even doing? You know?
Absolutely. I so I initially said that I thought it was going to be more like over the over under in terms of points and stuff, but my actual prediction that I had, I think it's going to be Jacksonville 28, Kansas City 24. What I know you were saying that you had Kansas City winning this game. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be. I do think it's gonna be close. I think Jacksonville is going to hang around with them because Jacksonville plays Kansas City well. I keep talking about that playoff game last year. The
Right.
score doesn't really reflect it, but Jacksonville held their own more than they should have against Kansas City. So I think it's going to be Kansas City 27, Jacksonville 24.
Okay. Man.
Yeah.
That's actually that would be pretty awesome being able to see that. So
Yeah.
I just think it's them playing in Jacksonville like that's an electric environment too. That never used to mean anything, right? And now
Oh, yeah.
it's starting to have meaning, which is like the way they're playing down there is good. But like think about it too, like that whole state, like even what's going on in Miami. Like Miami home field means something now, right? Like their team's good. They don't need home field advantage. They'll go to LA and crush a team. They don't care. But
Right.
like it's just I'm liking to see these teams that we grew up that weren't good necessarily, and they're starting to become better now.
Well, there's a whole resurgence with Florida sports. I mean, the Panthers made the Stanley Cup Finals this year. The Heat made the NBA Finals again. It looks like Florida State's kind of back, which is kind of weird. Like, yeah, it's kind of a football or a sports resurgence in Florida, which is just good to see. So
yeah, maybe we got a Miami Jacksonville AFC title game. Who knows?
if that happens, hell is frozen over.
Yeah,
And
I know. There's too many good
the
quarterbacks.
apocalypse.
Yeah, there's too many good quarterbacks right now. All right. So like, let's shift gears a little bit. We'll cover the Monday night game, which is Cleveland at Pittsburgh. So we go from talking about two teams that are Super Bowl hopefuls to one of them is a Super Bowl favorite, another a hopeful, to two teams that I don't think either of us are considering are going to be Super Bowl contenders. They're giving Cleveland 2 points on it. The over/under's 40. What are your thoughts on this game?
I really like Cleveland here, and I'm going to say a thing. I think Cleveland's going to punch them in the mouth this week. I think they have a defense that just punches people in the mouth. You saw it last week with Cincinnati. Myles Garrett gets up for Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. And I really think Deshaun Watson, he doesn't need to do a lot because I think this defense is going to really bail him out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to be one of those games where, and I don't know how Pittsburgh's going to score points. I don't. What I watched from Kenny Pickett last week is if you're a reasonably good defense, you're just going to fluster and frustrate him. Full stop.
I think you brought up some pretty good points there. Deshaun Watson, if you started to look at the end of last week, now granted they're playing in the same conditions that Burrow and the Bengals were, right? But you were starting to see a little glimpse of Deshaun Watson kind of getting his swagger back, right?
Yeah.
personal stuff aside, like that's nothing we really want to talk about. But like him as a football player on the field, like you started to see that playmaker kind of come out a little bit, which was really good to see. Like when he was in Houston, it was electric to watch him. Like it was kind of like, okay, what isn't he capable of there? So maybe
Right.
he's gonna bring that viewpoint and the kind of that to Cleveland. I hope he does. The other piece of that, like what you mentioned about Miles Garrett, like what are they gonna do about this guy? Like this guy's
Yeah.
a freak, man. Like he really is. He was doing basketball moves on the field in front of Cincinnati linemen. Like he's gonna have a field
Yeah.
day against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he really is. I think this is a lot of like Pittsburgh, San Francisco last week,
Mm-hmm.
where each team has a stud guy on defense that I think is going to wreak havoc, especially with Conklin being out for Cleveland now. Like TJ Watt's got to be licking his chops, being like he could have a field day with that.
Yeah, so kind of an interesting thing about that. So, and I'm a Conklin fan, right? Like I liked him before when he was in Tennessee and stuff. I really liked him as a player and stuff. Him going out, obviously, it's a loss, right? Like you've got that veteran leadership. He's a good tackle, all of that stuff. They actually drafted a guy this year in the fourth round, Dewan Jones. Dude, have you seen this guy? He's 6'8", 375, bro. This dude is a triple burger. Like he's almost a quad stack from Wendy's, right? Like this guy is a big dude. And not only that, like his preseason metrics in those games, and granted, you're not always playing against starters, I get that, but they were off the charts, man. Like he played very, very well in the preseason. Like the second best, I think, out of any lineman in the NFL in the preseason. So like you saw it when he came in. Like they really didn't look bad. He wasn't a liability, and I think if he's able to step into that role and kind of like they don't miss a step, man, like look out, man. You got an almost 400-pound guy. He's a literal giant.
Yeah,
it's wild.
Yeah, I think these two teams are weirdly similar. They both right now are kind of banged up on the line.
Mm-hmm.
They both have running backs that just like to just pound the ball down your throat with, like, especially with Chubb. Like that man will just run through you. Like he's not going to run around you. He's going to run through you. But he'll do it with such speed that you're not even going to know you got run through until it's too late.
Yeah, and they're starting to implement some. Yeah, Najee is. I really hope he resurges this year, man. I really want to see it. Like I like him a lot. I love the way he runs the ball. I love the stiff arms he throws. Like I just want to see him do it. Like he's got so many doubters. I'm hoping that he's able to like flip the narrative on that and like have a killer season for them.
I think this is a game where I think Cleveland just dominates defensively, and I think you're going to see a game. Remember how we talked about Dak last week, and he didn't have really impressive numbers. I think they're going to generate a lot of turnovers on Pittsburgh, and they're going to start a lot of drives inside the 50. And so I think that you're not. I think Watson's going to play a good game, but you're not going to see the stats. The stats won't back that up.
Yeah.
So.
Which can definitely happen. Like, and you could still win football games by not throwing for 300 yards and having 100 yards on the ground, right? Like, it's possible to do that. One big concern for me about Pittsburgh's defense, and like this just came out, I think, earlier today, was about Cam Hayward. Like, they obviously he was hurt, right? Like he had the groin that he injured in the game last week against San Francisco, but they just said that, he's going to have surgery and repair that and stuff. So that's, 8 weeks he's going to be out. And he's a big, big influence. You talk about a guy like TJ Watt. Part of the reason he's able to do what he can is because you have someone like Hayward on the other side, right? Like, I think it's a big loss for them. I still, believe it or not, I still have Pittsburgh winning this game because I think they actually do bounce back, and I think it's going to be pretty low scoring. I got 21-17, but I think they'll be able to do it.
I think it's going to be Cleveland. Like I said before, I think Cleveland's going to stomp them. I think it's going to be Cleveland beating Pittsburgh 23-10.
Okay.
Yeah, because I just, like I said, like I said, I just don't know if you're a reasonably good defense. I just don't know how Pittsburgh scores points.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. Well, listen, we got to wait till Monday to be able to see it and stuff. But at least we'll get a lot of football in before that happens, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, and also too with injuries. Like, let's talk about fantasy injuries because
listen,
boy,
I think it's rough, right? Because like some of these guys, as I'm looking, like I think you have a few of them. So like it's the first one.
In our Guillotine League, I have Eckler and Aaron Jones, and I am sweating bullets because this is elimination week.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be the first one out. I don't.
Well, there is potentially some good news with Eckler, right?
Yeah.
And I think you should find out today. Like, granted, he's out in Los Angeles, so we're gonna have to find out. Wait till their time, till he practices and stuff. But they know that it's an ankle sprain. They're just not sure if it's high or low. And if he practices today, it's low ankle. There's a good chance of him, playing on Sunday, but he's probably going to see a little reduction in snaps. And that's okay. It just means more Joshua Kelly, but that's okay, right? Like that's not a huge deal. He's always productive with that, and they're always giving him the ball. So like I feel like he still plays well, even with a reduction in snaps.
And I think he'll score a touchdown. So like for fantasy purposes, that's all that really matters to me.
Yeah.
Are you going to score me a touchdown?
Well, listen,
the answer is yes. Then great.
There's no one that's been better at it the last few years than Eckler. I mean, he's been an absolute touchdown king. So I know we talked a little bit about Travis Kelce and stuff, but basically, like they're basically predicting him to play. They just don't think he's going to be as close to 100% as people want him to be. But it's going to take a couple weeks for him, right? And then he'll actually be fully healthy to come in there. The other guy you mentioned, Aaron Jones, right, nursing that hamstring, and that's one that scares me. So like he's, they think he's going to suit up and stuff. I got my fingers crossed this isn't a Cooper Kupp situation, right? Like, and I don't think it is. I think it's smaller than that. There's no talk of nerve damage, anything like that, but like it still is concerning when like he came out right after that touchdown run and was like grabbing his leg. So it's like, that's not a good thing it's like, hooray, yes, oh no, like it's not a good feeling at all. So
I got the notification from Yahoo that said he exited the game with a hamstring injury, and I was just immediately like, we're starting this already, like come on.
There's been a lot of injuries this year already, and another one, and I'm sure, I don't know if you saw it when you were watching the New England game, but Kenneth Gainwell with the rib injury and stuff, he took a pretty good shot and stuff, and this just doesn't feel good, right? Like it's anytime you hear something with ribs, it doesn't, oh man, like he's gonna get hit, he's a running back, right? Like how do you protect that? So like I think it's likely he plays. Just we should see a lot more of DeAndre Swift this week. Maybe some Rashad Penny, even though it seems like he's kind of an afterthought in that offense. What do you think?
Yeah, I think with Gainwell, I think he's going to play. I think that there isn't any word that he broke anything or that like he tore some cartilage. Like I think it was just like he's bruised up. Really, in the grand scheme of things, I think he's going to play, and I think he's going to play well. He's going to be fine.
Yeah,
I don't think there's anything to really worry about.
He's a guy that has a really good understanding of that offense, and it shows, right? Like they're giving him the snaps. Like he's a very good player. So I'm glad that he's starting to see the limelight more, because like people are starting to realize like, oh, this dude's a player. Like he can actually do it. I just think, even Nick Sirianni came out and said like, I don't ever want to go through a game again where DeAndre Swift gets 2 carries or something like that. Like it didn't feel good for DeAndre Swift looking at the box score. So, hopefully Kenneth Gainwell is going to be all right as well. And like you had mentioned before, this is the first week of cuts in our Guillotine League because we do it a little bit different. We have a few people less than the 18. So, who's it going to be?
I'm gonna be honest with you, I really hope it's you. just from a content standpoint, that I can come and celebrate it. But like now that I've put that out there in the world, watch it be that Eckler and Jones both don't play, and then I'm gonna have to eat a lot of, excuse my language, I'm gonna have to eat a lot of shit.
Well, yeah, but you'll have the Dallas defense, and they'll score 50 points again, and you'll be good.
I'm gonna need them to.
Yeah, it's that kind of worried me about it, looking at it like Eckler and Jones and stuff, and I'm feeling somewhat confident, but like again, my guys could go out there and drop a dud too. So like you never know. Like it's possible that happens, but the biggest thing is like with me running it. I just don't want to be the first team. Like that does not feel good in any way to be the first team to get knocked out. I don't want it to happen, but I will give you your moment in the sun if if Tuesday morning we're sitting here and it will be a few beers that night and some crying for sure.
Do you think that we can petition Roger Goodell to have Dallas play the Giants again this week? I need one more week of them playing the Giants so I can just avoid the chopping block for 1 week and then we're good.
Well, let me ask you a question first about that. If he does allow it, would the Giants take Daniel Jones out before the end of the game?
No, I don't think so. I think he would have one arm missing, and they'd be like, "Yeah, he's fine. Let's throw him out there.
Let's run $40 million back out there again. Let's do it."
Yeah, he's still got one arm. He can hand the ball off.
Yeah. Well, listen, I definitely wish you luck this week in fantasy. I'm wishing myself some luck too. I might need it. But yeah, definitely fun to be back again talking this stuff. I know we'll be back next Tuesday. We'll have a little bit more in terms of the games, kind of reactions from not only the Thursday night game but also the Sunday games as well. And then we'll be able to talk Monday too. Yeah, the Monday night game as well. Yeah, we'll be back. We'll be back. We'll be filming Tuesday, so it should be a lot of fun. Again, just want to thank you, man. Love you and stuff, and I really appreciate everyone for watching. We really appreciate the feedback. Some people are giving us comments, tips here and there, so we really do appreciate it. We're looking to just kind of perfect it each week and continue to get better at this. So if there's something you want to see or you want us to talk about going forward, make sure you drop a comment. Make sure you like the video and definitely smash that subscribe button. If you do have any questions, anything like that, email us at thepulsewa@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter at WillieCreamanFF as well, and find us on The Pulse. Thank you so much, Al. I love you so much, bro.
Love you too, brother. Have a good one.
You too.